Welcome to This Week in Real Estate with Jonathan Harmon. Listen in as him and other members of the J Harmon Home Team speak about all things real estate with local experts here in the Middle Tennessee area. Be sure to check out jharmonhometeam.com for more information and how to get in touch with our amazing team. Welcome to the show.
All right. Good Monday morning. This is Jonathan Harmon with the J Harmon Home Team, powered by Keller Williams. And happy Monday.
Yeah.
Trent, happy Monday to you.
Happy Monday.
Did you have a good weekend?
Man, I had an amazing weekend.
Yeah, what'd you do?
We were in St. Pete.
Very nice.
All this beach talk before we push record, I was like, yeah, that was yesterday.
Your tan doesn't look any different, pal.
Does it?
No. Were you wearing a hoodie the whole time?
No, I did. I got a little color.
Oh,
It's
okay.
a little hard to tell. It's the lighting in here.
Is that what it is? Okay.
the
It's always the lighting. Always the lighting. Yeah.
No, it was really nice though. We had a good time.
Oh, that's good. Well, we did a lot of MTSU stuff this week. Of course, Coach Mason has got to Murfreesboro. Pretty excited. Got to meet him a couple of times. I'm pretty pumped about my Blue Raiders. So
Awesome.
Yeah, he's fiery. He's fun. Like, he's entertaining. You know, he's that big personality that Chris Massaro said we needed, and I'm optimistic, man.
That's awesome.
I told him, I said, this is the first time in a while I've had some real hope of some change and some good things going on over there at my alma mater. So very excited about that. Also super excited about my guest here, Mr. Mike Allen of Allen's Air Care. The only people that work on my HVAC systems in all of their different locations scattered throughout the county, it seems like. And I've known Mike now, I don't even know, a long time. And my parents, of course, even before, I guess Riley Blair was actually who worked on our HVAC systems before you. So that's how long ago it was.
30 plus.
Yeah. So Riley was always a lot of fun. And the most fun thing, do you know Riley, or did you know Riley?
I knew him, yes.
Okay. So you know that he was a big personality.
Yes.
And he was the first guy that was not a family member of some sort that I witnessed really get on to my dad about something and just gave him what for about not cleaning out around the outside part of the air conditioner. And I mean, just dressed him down. And I'm sitting there going, is he going to get away with this? And he absolutely did. So it was kind of a neat moment in my life. I was about 14, 15 years old.
It was eye-opening, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. So that was pretty cool. But anyway, so Mike, you said 30 years?
It'll be 32 years March 1st
No kidding.
in business, but I've been in the business 40.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so how 32 years, you know, there's all these stats about business ventures, small businesses, failure rates, all of that. What is the secret to having a successful small business for 32 years?
And I've had several.
In an industry, let's throw this out there, in an industry that has big competition, right? Big company competition, and then a slew of small businesses that do come and go.
I think the biggest thing is customer service. You know, people call it 9 or 10 o'clock at night, having somebody out there putting good quality equipment in, good quality installations, just trying to do a little better than the average and serve those customers well.
Yeah.
And that's one of our things on our website is if you take care of your customers will take care of you.
100%.
And that we've proven that. We're not perfect by any means, but that's the other thing. We get calls frequently, and you've witnessed this, that, hey, I've had a company out here 3 times and they can't fix my unit. Can y'all come out and look at it? So it may take us a time or two to get all the bugs worked out of it because we're not sure what has been done prior to us getting there.
Right.
Once we do that, we stand behind it 100%. You know, we're going to make sure it's right.
Yeah.
If we, like I said, we're not perfect. If we install something and something's not set up right, something didn't get checked, we will come back immediately and take care of it. And that's the other thing. You know, I've called them 4 or 5 times and they won't come back out, or they tell me they'll be here today and they don't show up for 3 or 4 days, or don't show up at all. And that's one thing we're going to do.
Yeah.
You know, I was brought up, your word's your bond. And you stand behind what you say. If you tell somebody you're going to do something, you do it. You know, if we overlook something, if I bid a job or our sales people bid a job and we overlook something and we get out there and the guy said, hey, this is messed up or we need this extra, go get it, do it, and let the homeowner know that we took care of it. There's no extra charge for that.
Well,
so
and
it's just standing behind what you do 100%. And there's just not a lot of that anymore in today. There are a lot of small companies, a lot of big companies that, just don't stand behind what they do.
Especially in this particular field in HVAC. And what I have experienced, what I've witnessed is that sometimes, and you see this in all kinds of construction, but especially it seems like in HVAC, there's this one issue that happens, and that's this repair. But what you don't think about is that there's like 3 other issues behind that one that's causing that issue
Yes.
to occur. And so you fix it and it breaks again, and you go, oh, okay, let's step back and look at this.
Yes.
And you got to dig a little deeper sometimes.
A lot of the times, and I'd say probably 90%, is installation or improper installation. And the biggest thing for us is ductwork. Of course, in real estate, it's all about location.
Right.
Heating and air, it's all about airflow. Whether it's a car, whether it's refrigerator, freezer, home unit, window, whatever, it's all about airflow.
Sure.
You don't have enough. Typically, it's not enough. Very seldom do we ever go and say, hey, there's too much air. But most of the time, it's improper duct sizing, maybe not enough duct work on it, maybe the unit's too large.
Or it's just dirty. How many
Yes,
times have you
yes.
shown up at one of my units and been like, dude, when was the last time you changed your filter? And I'm like, and I'm so embarrassed when you
Yeah.
when you guys do that. But yeah, that's happened a couple times. now.
Yeah, monthly check them. People want to buy pleated filters, and they're great. The pleated filters are awesome, but they're not 3-month filters.
Right.
They can last up to 3 months.
Right.
And when somebody says, well, it's been in there, it hasn't been in there 2.5 months. Well, if it's during the middle of the summer and it's running 20 hours a day,
And you got 3 dogs in the house.
3 dogs and 4 kids.
Right.
So you have a lot of traffic, stuff like that. I mean, you may have to change them we've seen them every 2 weeks sometimes, depending on traffic and how the unit's running.
Or you have a brewery that has grain dust in the
Yes.
air all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about every 3 days. It seems like you got to change those stupid things. But I mean, it's the environment that
Yes.
you're in, right? And and I think that's. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's something that maybe 30 years ago people didn't really take into account. Is that right? That it was air conditioning, right? And
Right.
now it's really environmental conditioning, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. When I, 30 plus years ago now, there wasn't a concern about efficiency ratings or anything like that. It's just it heats and cools a house. Mm-hmm. So an air conditioning unit is really a big dehumidifier anyway.
Right.
But
Explain that, because I've only recently really understood that.
Yeah. Yeah. The air conditioning unit will cool your home. But here in Tennessee, as we know, humidity is a big factor. Mm-hmm. It also removes the humidity from your home. One of the things we say, well, we've got a customer that's got a home that's got a 2-ton heating and air unit in it, and it goes out. Well, I want a bigger unit because it won't have to run as long. Well, that's a big mistake, because if it doesn't run as long, then it's not pulling humidity out of the home. So a home at 68 degrees with 65% humidity is not as comfortable as a home at 72 with 45 or 50% humidity, just like walking outside. So you don't want to oversize the equipment. You want to put the right size in for that particular job. If they're adding on or replacing, it doesn't matter. A lot of the equipment today, with our efficiency changes, and they're fixing to change again in 2025, the units are coming to stage in the air conditioning cycle. So you'll have first stage, it run at 70%, and then if it gets warm enough in the house, it will automatically go to second stage to run full capacity. And that's great, because in Tennessee, we have about 4 hours during the day between 2 and 6 that you're probably going to need 100% capacity. Mm-hmm. And the rating on that unit, as far as like miles per gallon to a car, is the efficiency rating, the SEER rating, seasonal energy ratio. That will be higher at that low stage. Now, it may run a lot, but you're controlling temp, you're controlling humidity. And if you can let that unit run and kind of coast at 70%, like cruise control, that's the best thing to do. And if it's running and cutting off and on all day long, when that unit cuts on, that first surge of power, you're drawing a lot of power. You're putting a lot of drain on your unit itself, cutting off and on.
So in that regard, it is a lot like if you kind of think about some of the conventional wisdom with a car. You put as much strain and use as much fuel at startup a lot of times as you do as if it's just running at idle.
Yes.
And so it's actually okay if it runs a little longer at a low strain, low
Yes.
speed, and it's easier, especially with heat pumps. Correct me if I'm wrong. it's easier for them to maintain a temperature and a humidity factor than it is to change that temperature. So,
Right.
like programmable thermostats, that sounds awesome, right? Except that if you let it get up to 75 and then you want to bring it down to 68 or something, that's a lot of work
Yes.
to move that temperature, where it's actually easier to just maintain it at 70 and call it good.
Correct. Yeah. There are applications. If you have a winter home or a vacation home, something like that, you may want to make some adjustments. And the thermostats today will also begin to have a kind of like a rhythm in them where they'll know how long it takes to pull that temperature down. So if you have it, even your home would do that. So if you leave at 8 o'clock in the morning, don't come back till 5 in the afternoon, and you've got it set for a 4 to 5 degree differential, that unit may start coming on at 2 o'clock and run short cycles up to and get it there, or 3 o'clock, depending how far it's off, to get it to your set point by 5. But when it's 95, 100 degrees outside, a couple of years ago we had it here, people were having those setback thermostats, they would not pull it down.
No, it's
because
too
it was
hard.
too far away.
Yeah.
So
I remember my old car had an eco measurement thing on it, right? And if you stepped hard on the gas, that eco would go, it would just tank,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
But if you were coasting down a hill and you just barely had your foot on the gas, it would spike up like this. So it's kind of the same thing.
yes, absolutely.
The more you can just coast down that hill and maintain something, the better. And the second that you've got to make an adjustment, the economics of it just tank.
Yes, absolutely.
So, all right, so that's air. Let's talk heat right now, because, man, I don't know about you. I was shivering coming in this morning.
Yeah, we had some more frost this morning.
Yeah, that's the first time I scraped my window today.
Yeah. Let your car run in the morning, let it warm up good.
Yeah.
So
what about on the heat side of things? I mean, one of the things, we see this all the time with home inspections. Of course, this being a real estate podcast, let's talk about that for a second. On the heat side, especially in a heat pump, we're kind of like right on the edge of where heat pumps are really effective. Is that pretty accurate?
yes, correct.
So some temperatures, they're not very effective. When we get below, 30 degrees or whatever?
The newer equipment today, it's been out about 10 years, probably 30 degrees. The older units with the different refrigerant in them, they were about 35. So the new refrigerant that's in the equipment today has more capacity at lower temperatures, not any more heat. It'll just do more work at a lower capacity. So with that, you can run down to about 30 degrees outside before that backup heat should come on. It will maintain house temperature.
And that's where it gets expensive, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So basically, I guess give me just a quick, what is a heat pump? Because it blows my mind how this actually works, where it extracts energy from whichever side that you're trying to, like the opposite of what you're trying to maintain, right?
Like in the summertime, if you've got a heat pump, whether it be a two-piece unit, maybe a unit inside, a unit outside, or the whole unit sits outside. If you go out in the summertime, put your hand on top of that fan's blowing that warm air. It's pulling that warm air out of the house.
It's pulling the heat energy out of the house.
Right, and dumping it outside where you don't care about it.
Right.
So in the wintertime, through parts in that unit, a reversing valve and some other components, it'll actually shift that flow of Freon, and it will dump that hot air back into the house.
But how do you get hot air out of a 35-degree day?
There is some warm air because of the composites of the Freon that will maintain some heat in the house. Again, airflow. We've had some equipment that we've went back, homeowners been living there 3 or 4 years and call us out, hey, it's just not heating well, it never has. You can go out and check it, and the air it's moving too much air. So it's like taking a fan and putting it on your desktop. If you put it on low, the air will be kind of cool. As you crank that up to medium or high, it gets cooler and cooler. Same way with the heat pump. They got a very bad rep back in the 80s, back when I first started, because they blow cold air all the time. Well, it was too much airflow. If you've got too much, it's going to be cooler. So if you can get that air adjusted through some velometer readings, some meters on your vents to see what you're actually moving air, feet per minute or CFM, either one, then you can adjust the blower speed or duct work, whatever needs to be done to look at getting that air right. We've seen some run up as high as 5 or 6 more degrees by dropping the blower speed or adjusting duct work. And 5 or 6 degrees is a lot.
That's a lot.
Yes, when it should be 90, 95 degree air and you're getting 80, 85 degree air out of it.
Yeah.
So that has a lot to do with it.
Well, and then also airflow around the components, right? So are your shrubs grown up against your outside units?
Yeah, and if you build a cover, and we've had homeowners to build little sheds over the top of them, I think most manufacturers say a minimum of 6 feet, not 2 feet.
Yeah.
You know, where you're pumping that cold air out in the wintertime and it's hitting that covering or hitting the shrubs and going right back in it. Well, it's not bringing in fresh air.
Yeah.
It's got to breathe and got to have fresh air. Again, airflow, whether it's outside or whether it be inside the home, you have to maintain that. We like to see about 24 to 36 inches around the unit, not up against it, for serviceability and for airflow.
Sure.
And I know sometimes people will cut shrubs in the spring. They have to cut them again about July, August, because they'll grow back.
Yeah.
And some will grow over the top. We go out for maintenance or we go out for our trouble calls. Sometimes we have to wind up asking the homeowner, hey, can we trim these back?
Right.
They're hanging over the unit and it's just recirculating that hot air.
Yeah.
In the wintertime, it's recirculating cold air.
Keeping it trapped.
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting. And then the big thing now is the AUX heat, right? So if you have a heat pump, you've got that auxiliary heat,
Yes.
the blue light on the old thermostats.
Blue
right?
or red, or now it's most of your digitals will show you AUX, auxiliary, the backup heat on.
And it's basically like a space heater.
It's
just
actually
built
like
in.
the old wall heaters. It's
Yeah.
got coils in the units, and those coils will come on and glow or come on and heat up. When one of those coils comes on, it's pulling about 20 amps. Okay,
That's a lot, by the way.
Yes, that's a lot. Your heat pump's going to run between 8 and 10 amps, so you can do the math on that. At least double for one, and most equipment has 2 in it. Larger homes may have 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So if you've got 2 in it, that's 40 amps you're pulling through that thing, and your meter's flying.
And so basically what it does is those kick on, and it's trying to push that air across that
Yes.
to heat the air up.
Right. Yeah. Your thermostat will usually about 2 or 3 degrees separation. If you got your house sitting on 70 degrees and it gets down to 68, 67, automatically the backup heat will kick on. Like this morning, I'd say some backup heat was running, which is fine. It'll run for a minimal amount of time. It will run and bring it back up to right at that 69 or 70 degree mark. It will cut back off, and the heat pump will continue to run. Just like last Christmas, we had all that ice cold weather.
Yeah.
There were
For a sustained period of time.
Yes. Yeah. We had a lot of service calls those couple of days, but the main thing we were finding is maybe one of the heaters were not working, a bad relay, a blown fuse, breaker, something like that. And once you got that second heat strip on, then the house started warming up. And there were a few that were just maintaining 65, and that's all they would do. So the unit was just doing everything it could, but it was maintaining some temp. But those backup heaters, if you can keep those off, again, 20 years ago, the older Freon would get it down to about 35. Well, at 30 degrees, that's 5 more degrees. You're keeping those heaters off. So you gain efficiency by doing that.
And 30-degree weather is very common here.
Yes.
20-degree weather, sure, it happens. 10-degree weather, some,
Yeah.
right, but pretty rare.
Below 10, abnormal.
Yes, very much so. And I think it's very interesting. Houses, people have different views of what their house is, right? A lot of folks view it real simply. It's just a box that that we put our stuff in. But when you really start getting into the components, we had a plumber, Perfecto Plumbing, was with us last week. You start picking apart the individual systems, and you start seeing how this stuff is all interrelated, right? Like you think about a crawl space. Well, a crawl space is just the dirty area under the house. Well, yes, but that's also where a lot of times your ductwork lives.
Correct.
It's where your plumbing lives. It's where your electric is run. So you get something like a squirrel or a raccoon that gets into your crawl space, and it wreaks just absolute havoc.
Yes.
On that. So you got
Skunks, possums.
all of them. Yeah, they're terrible, right? And
Yes.
they love to tear up ductwork because it's
Yep.
a little bit warmer in the winter.
Well, they're trying to tear into it to get that warm air.
Yeah, exactly. And you also think about insulation. So, like in your case, the second most important thing I would guess is how tight is your house and how insulated it is. Because once we get it to 70 degrees, how easy is it for your house to keep 70 degrees?
Right.
And that has nothing to do with the HVAC. It has to do with all the insulation and the window gaps and everything else, right?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. TVA requirements, I think, is R38 in the attic now. Used to be R30. And you wouldn't think that'd be a big difference. But when your ceilings is typically on a single level, almost where you're going to lose your heat at anyway.
Right.
So if you can maintain it in there for a longer period of time, and like I said, doors and windows and older windows that maybe seals are broke on or maybe not shutting tight, things like that, or even storms that are up.
Yeah.
Will let that cold in.
And if you can see daylight through a crack that
Yes.
you shouldn't see daylight through, that means air's coming in.
Correct. Yeah, and if you were to go around and look at all those little small things and added them up, you might as well take a window and open it up about a quarter of the way and just let the cold air in.
Yeah.
Or hot air in. So
Right,
it's the same thing in
whichever.
the summertime. Because the heat from the attic will come through that insulation if it's not tall enough. If it's even with your rafters, it's definitely not enough. But if a home's 10 plus years old, it probably needs to be checked because it will settle. It will push down after a while as it settles, and you lose your R value. Your R value is the fluff in it anyway. It's not go up there and pack it down as tight as you can get it.
Right. It's the airspace.
It's the airspace. Yes.
Yeah. I had an old house over on Morton Street in Smyrna before I bought the house that I'm in that I have now. And one of the first things that we did, so we replaced the HVAC for the upstairs and we added an HVAC for the basement and separated those two things. But we immediately spent, I don't know, I think it was $1,200, whatever it was, on doing insulation in the attic.
Yep.
And it made more of a difference than the new unit did.
Yeah,
honestly.
Your payback on insulation is going to be pretty quick.
Yeah.
Typically, maybe a year or 2 years at the most. So your return on that investment's quick.
Yeah.
And you feel it in the house because you're not feeling it's not drafty. You're maintaining heat more units, and you see it on your electric bill especially.
Instantly.
Yeah, instantly.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So when you start, when you're, especially if you're, in an older home and anymore, to your point, the way codes change and the way all that stuff adjusts, 15 years is not a new house.
No.
It's just not. Codes have evolved 2 or 3 times since then on various components. So it makes sense. And TVA will come and do, or in our case, Middle Tennessee Electric, we'll send somebody out and do, is it still called Energy Right?
Yeah, it's a home evaluations, and they'll make some recommendations for you to.
And put thermal cameras on it.
Yes, they can. Sure will. And they can do that and then make recommendations on, hey, you really be good to upgrade windows or add insulation or, whatever.
Caulk the outside of your
Yes.
windows. Or
Yes.
Yeah, those thermal images always trip me out. Like, here's all your house. It's nice and blue, except this hot spot right here where you're losing everything.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great the technology we have today. So they're just trying to keep that additional power off the power grid.
Yeah.
When it gets real cold, we may have some power issues here. And so that will help maintain and keep those homes from using a little more electricity. And if you can do that, how many homes are being built in Rutherford County today? It's a strain on the power grid when they do that.
And I think that's a part that if people would understand that a little bit more, you just hit on that, is that you've got those heat strips, okay? It's 20 degrees outside today, or 22, whatever it was this morning. And your house kicks on that power, right? And it's using 20 or 40 extra amps. And then you look around, and literally every other house and apartment and every other living unit is doing the same thing.
Yes.
All of a sudden, that power usage is double or triple or quadruple.
Yeah.
Depending on how cold it is, right?
Sure. Yeah. And especially in the mornings, again, summertime 2 to 6, and in the mornings probably between 4 and 7 is your coldest part of the morning. What's people doing? They're getting them going to work. Then you got water heaters kicking on that's using electric. You've got people turning lights on and things like that. So yeah, you really draw on the grid by doing that. So the unit's becoming more efficient. Of course, they cost a lot more today than they did a couple of years ago.
You are not kidding, man.
And they're fixing to go up again
Yeah.
when our Freon changes again in 2025.
Well, you guys put a new unit on one of my houses earlier this year, and in my head I'm like, okay, this is going to be somewhere between here and here. And I called you, and I know you're not gouging me, and you're like, I said, I think I even said, oh, that's going to be somewhere around this, and you were like, it's been a while since you've shopped for these, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And I said, yes, and I was wrong by a pretty fair margin.
Yeah. In the last 2 years, really since COVID, when we had the big demand for everything, we couldn't get equipment.
Sure.
We were having to maintain a lot of the old stuff, put parts on. Our equipment's gone up at least 50%. So, like I said, I've been in the business 40 years, but 30 plus in business. Every January, February, March, we got a price increase for our manufacturers. I've only seen it jump twice, and that was back in '09, maybe 10. We had 2 price increases one year. Typically, it's once a year. 2 years ago, we had 4 in 1 year. So it went up between 40 and 45% in 1 year.
Man,
and,
oh, man.
We're the bad guy when we come out and say you need a new unit, and here's what it's going to cost. Well, my neighbor had one put in 2 years ago, and it cost him this, and it's like, yeah, but our equipment's gone up this much.
Right.
And it's shocking,
Yeah.
It's like buying a used car today.
I know.
And it, like I said, and it's fixing to go up again. And
Yeah.
we're at the mercy of it. Matter of fact, I've already got emails from several of our manufacturers that are telling us what their rates are going to go up in January 1 or February 1. And we have those anyway, but still, to take a couple of hits we did a few years ago with 4 price increases and then hit again, and now they're fixing to change the equipment, the Freon anyway, in it.
Will they do the same kind of phase thing where after a certain length of time that the old stuff is no longer even manufactured, and you know how they did with the 410A and
They're
22?
probably going to start mid-24 manufacturing the new equipment to get it in the warehouses where they can get it out in 25.
Mm-hmm. And then it'll only the current stuff will only be good. The 410A will only be good for another 10 years or something.
Typically, yes. Yeah, until that unit fails, and then, of course, all the new equipment's going to be out. So it'll be a phase-in. It'll be an easier phase-in with this product than it would be when we had the R22 to 410. They couldn't sell any of the old R22 products. If they were on the shelf, they just had to scrap them.
Right.
So the 410 is going to be an easier phase-in with the new Freon. I think what they're going to name it is 454B. So and each manufacturer may have their own. Carrier labels theirs something else.
Yeah, they put a name on it, like Puron or whatever.
Yeah, but it's all 454B Freon. So it's going to change a lot of the way we install equipment. So there'll be some changes there. We'll have to have new gauges to check it with, new procedures to install it. We've already had some classes on that and some manufacturing classes on their brand on what they're going to do, because everybody's going to be a little different. It'll all work the same, but each manufacturer is going to have their own specific way of either installing, checking, things like that. But it's just going to change our procedures a little bit.
Well, I will tell you, you just said this, and I love this about your company. Your guys are some of the most knowledgeable, and there's an ability to know something and do it. There's a whole other ability to then explain it to somebody that doesn't know, right, to a novice. And all of your guys that I've interacted with have been excellent at communicating what's going on. I'll never forget, I got Chris on one time on a it was one of those, your answering service, and it was 10 o'clock at night. I guess he was on call or whatever. So lucky him, he got to take my call. And it was a listing that I had, and the sweet little old lady had already moved out, and I just so happened to have been there, and it was freezing in this place. It was 12 degrees outside, and the unit was not functioning correctly.
Yeah.
And I don't remember exactly what it was that was an issue, but Chris said, "Okay, is it a whatever brand?" Yes. Okay, we'll go look at the serial number. And it starts with blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yes, like this is weird. He's never worked on this unit, but he knew that. He said, okay, you got a screwdriver? Yes. Okay, take this one cover off, and is there, the light's either going to be blinking this color or this color? And I'm like, yes. And I could tell, like he was spouting this out of his brain. He wasn't reading a manual, Yeah. And he goes, okay, well, if it's reading that color, look down to your left like 3 inches, and there should be a button, and then there's this other thing, and like 30 minutes later, I'm sitting here and I'd like fixed.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, you've only sort of fixed it. We'll come out and fix it tomorrow, and I'm like, how the crap did you know that? Because this is one brand, one model of one brand of, a gazillion different units.
Right.
It's 10 o'clock at night, and you just like spouted it. Anyway, it was incredible.
Yeah. When you work on enough of them day in and day out, there becomes a pattern on things we find on equipment.
Yeah.
The same failure over and over and over.
Yeah.
We'll go through a run of them. So you get to understand them, and Chris is very mechanically minded. He does a great job for us, and he's been with me probably 20 plus years now.
Yeah.
And I could probably do the same thing because of just being in the industry that long. But yeah, Chris is very good at that. And he didn't want to come out either.
No, I know,
what
I know. And I told him, I was like, "Don't come out. Is it something I can work on?" And then he,
let's walk you through it and see. And a lot of times we'll do that with a homeowner. If they call in after hours, our techs or Chris or myself, if we're on call, we'll say, "Okay, have you checked this? Have you checked?" And sometimes it's a dirty air filter. We've been busy.
Guilty.
We've had,
Yeah.
we've had family in and out of the hospital. We've been out of town or whatever, and it's something very minor, very simple. Hey, well, I'll change this, and especially during the summertime, I'll change it, let it run for a little while, and see if it'll working. And they'll call back and say everything's great.
Yeah.
So it keeps us from having to come out. We don't want to charge somebody a service call to go out there for a filter, Jonathan. But sometimes we have to. It's an expensive filter.
That's a real expensive filter for a $3 filter.
But doing it, like I said, doing it as long as Chris has and some of our guys that have been with us, we run across the same equipment manufacturers anyway.
Sure.
And there's only about 4 or 5 manufacturers if you go high enough up the food chain.
Even if they have different brands.
Yes, make everything in the market.
It's like appliances and all of them. Same thing.
They come off the same line,
Slap a different badge on it.
put a different badge or a different day running a different badge, something like that. But you get to where you work on enough of them, and there's not very many what we call odd brands in our area here.
Mm-hmm.
Every now and then we'll find one somebody's bought off the internet or and put in is like, who in the world makes this?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Chris will start digging and checking and come to find out it's one of the major brands, but it's a contractor's grade or something that's made in another part of the United States.
Right.
That they've brought or shipped in, something like that. So everything's pretty commonplace here. Very seldom do we get that.
So you've mentioned the new coolant that's coming. What are some other things that are kind of on the horizon that as a homeowner I need to kind of be aware of?
The biggest thing is the financial part of it. Equipment several years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, that was, we could replace a unit. You have a current unit that needs to be replaced. That was a $5,000 replacement. There's $7,500, $8,000 today.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably going to push up closer to 10.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like it because I'm a homeowner as well. But the cost of the equipment, I'm not sure where it's going to stop. But it's getting to the point now today that we're doing a lot more repairs, even on 10 and 11, 12-year-old equipment. We're doing repairs on them.
Out of necessity.
Yeah. Because who has $8,000 or $10,000 laying around for a piece of equipment?
Yeah.
And
does TVA still do the loan?
They still do their financing through TVA, but if you've got a gas unit, then you have to put what they call a dual fuel or a hybrid unit in, and they're more expensive.
Yeah, and potentially rewiring and all kinds of stuff,
yes, right? Yeah, because they're a heat pump and they're a gas unit combined. So you don't have your backup auxiliary heaters. You've got gas as your backup.
Mm-hmm.
But they want it to be a dual fuel or hybrid unit so they can recover some of those energy costs during the wintertime.
Sure.
So, but yeah, TVA has a great program. We've got a couple other forms of financing if they have a gas unit and don't want to go the TVA route.
Mm-hmm.
But the TVA finance is great. They
pay it through your electric bill.
Through your electric bill. You can pay it off early if you want to, or you can do a 10-year payout on it. And they'll once it's installed, sometimes they come out and do an inspection. They do spot inspections, things like that. Or if you want them to come out and do a home evaluation, they'll do that as well. And they say, hey, you got a 15-year-old unit, it'd be great to upgrade it.
And we have a solution for that.
Yes, that's correct.
By the way,
that's correct. So, but with our industry changing as far as efficiency ratings, the new Freon, there's just a lot going on.
Yeah.
And we're constantly trying to get guys in factory training to keep them updated as well. Because it's okay if Chris and I in the office know it, but we got to get our guys in the field on board with it as well.
That's right.
Some of the new policies, procedures, techniques, as far as servicing. Matter of fact, Thursday we've got all 3 of our techs in a class from 8 to 12 factory training. So we're trying to keep them up to speed as well on what's going on in our industry.
Yeah.
And it keeps them sharper out on the job. So we stay on top of everything because things are constantly changing. When I first started, I didn't do a lot of factory training, but I quickly figured out that I needed to do that to stay on top of stuff because I had left a large company to start a business, and we did factory training, and I did all the training I could get.
Sure.
Whether it's on my time or they paid us to go, either one. And so when I left, I took all that knowledge with me. But getting back into it, trying to get some factory training and field training for our guys because of our industry changing the way it is.
Well, let's shift gears just a little bit. So one of the things that I've experienced a lot is that when I have a home inspection done, most home inspectors basically won't touch anything HVAC. They might do a temperature differential and say, okay, this one's heating or this one's cooling, whatever, and it's within spec or whatever. But for the most part, that's about where it stops.
Right.
And then they almost always recommend, getting a licensed HVAC person to come
Sure.
out and further evaluate the system. So as a proactive measure, what are maybe the top, I don't know, 2 or 3 things that a homeowner or a home buyer or even a home seller can look for, prepare for, and maybe guard their investment just a little bit better?
If you're, of course, selling the home, it'd probably be good if you have a current heat and air company, get them to come out and just do a full cleaning on it if you haven't had it cleaned or checked in several years. Clean the coils up on it, clean out around the unit, and then just check everything. Check all the electrical components out on it, make sure everything's within specs, and just kind of go over it. That and check all your ductwork, whether it be underneath the home or in the attic, wherever the ductwork's located. Go ahead and check all that out for you and take your readings on there. I know we have gone behind several home inspectors that say, hey, the unit's not cooling good or not heating good because my temperature difference is not enough. Well, if it's got a high ceiling or maybe they can't get some of the vents to check airflow or to check the temperature of the air coming out of the vents, they shoot it with a laser. Well, the lasers are kind of a good check, but it's always better to take a probe and probe inside that ductwork, either in the home or in the main part of that ductwork to see what your temperature really is. And that probe's going to be a lot more accurate. A lot of times we'll go back and it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just it will not read properly with a laser sometimes.
Especially over a distance.
Yes, over a distance, and or if you're hitting metal instead of the airflow, and it will hit metal, you got a vent over it. Plus
Sure.
you got we call a boot where that air is being blown out of. So if you hit that, you may not get proper readings either. But homeowners just have it checked and cleaned. That way you know going in, and a seller the same way, have it checked. If it's a gas unit, have the heat exchangers checked, make sure the gas is working properly.
Do they still fail a lot? I mean, it seems like that's not been a thing as much recently. To me,
depending on manufacturer. And again, knowing manufacturers, there are certain ones that still put aluminized steel heat exchangers in. A couple of manufacturers we work with put stainless steel heat exchangers in. So aluminized steel, probably 8 to 10 years, and they'll split. The seams will split because they're pressed together. The stainless steel, we've put those in, and 15 years later we're replacing it because something else went out, and you take them out, and the heat exchangers are discolored, but they don't look like the aluminized where they're kind of burnt up.
Right, or got holes in them.
Right. The seams usually split and rust open on them. So that's key. Getting a good. That's one thing when you buy a piece of equipment. If you buy the lesser cost equipment and it's only got a 10-year warranty on it, it's 11 years old, and the heat exchanger splits open, it's pretty much time to replace.
Yeah.
But again, right now we're seeing some of those that we're putting heat exchangers in. And matter of fact, we just did one last Friday that the unit was going to be very expensive, and so they opted to put a heat exchanger in, and the replacement for this brand was actually a stainless steel. So it'll probably last when that unit finally goes out.
Can you take it out and swap it into the next one?
Well, the new ones will come with stainless.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, just getting a good quality piece of equipment, because there are some manufacturers out there that are less expensive to purchase on the front end, and even the same manufacturer, but again they will run it under a different brand,
right?
And that different brand will have some lesser parts for cost. Maybe a contractor's grade piece of equipment, something you're going to do for new construction where you're selling 100, 200, 300 in a subdivision, and you can save some money on the contractor, can save some money on the front end. So they'll do that versus spending that extra money on that stainless steel. So
Gotcha. So have it checked out. As far as, is there something I can do without even calling you out there? I mean, obviously you can stick your head down in the crawl space and see that the ductwork is whole, right? There's not holes in it.
No insulation hanging, all your straps are in good shape, things like that.
It's not dipping down and
Correct.
the water, flowing through, that kind of thing.
No roller coasters.
Yeah, that's it. And how accurate is it to look at an outside piece of equipment and it's like, okay, this equipment's rusty looking, it looks kind of old, kind of worn. I mean, is that a good indication that you should have it further inspected or not really?
Depends on the application. If they got mulch piled up around it, and that happens a lot of times where they build mulch up around it and it's going to rust prematurely. If it's up off the ground, up on a good concrete pad, or lifted up some to where it can't get to it and it's rusty.
And you want airflow under it
Yes,
sometimes,
yeah, you
right?
want airflow around it. Yes, even underneath it, because if it sits, a lot of times if they sit flat, then they'll start accumulate some rust. But make sure the leaves are out from underneath it or around it, things like that. And if you've got rust spots and it's clear around it, you've got rust spots, you may have leaves that have fallen in where the fan's at on top and have piled up and is retaining a lot of moisture. That's easy enough to take, cut the breaker off to it, pull that fan out, reach in there and either pull them out or take a shop vac and vacuum them out, get them cleaned out good. That's the other thing, a home inspection. Or if a homeowner wanted to do it, he felt comfortable doing it, he could do it as well.
Sure.
And keep that clean. And that would help maintain the unit as well, because if those leaves get in there and they're dirty and they start mildewing or, have some mildew and a funny smell, sometimes that smell will be pulled in from that unit back into the house.
Right.
So it's kind of like a crawl space smell. And so we can get that from time to time where there's when my unit runs, I'm getting a funny smell out of it. There are some other things in our industry that it could be, but sometimes it's just the leaves are piled up 4 inches deep in the bottom. Pine cones or pine needles especially are bad.
Or there's a dead animal in your
Yes.
crawl space.
Yeah.
Or
So there's there's some indications there that if we go out to a unit where they've dug in around it, or you can tell where they've been going in and out. There's hair around the metal cover from the unit to the house laying there. It's like, that's not good.
No,
So
that's not supposed to happen.
no, that's not supposed to be there.
All right. Well, Mike Allen, Allen's Air Care. Again, my trusted HVAC folks. They've always done a spectacular job, and on the small handful of times that your guys didn't do something right or something didn't go as expected, has always taken care of it and has always done the right thing. I can't think of one time where I've been disappointed in the end result.
Appreciate that.
And that's a big deal. So if you've got HVAC concerns, I even have your phone number memorized, 615-459-2424. It's pretty easy to memorize,
Yes.
but these guys are the best in our area for sure. So if you have those HVAC issues, give them a call. If you get a chance and you want to repair something and Chris gets to walk you through it, it's a thing of beauty, y'all. It was a magical moment when I walked away and went, I just fixed that, and he didn't even look at it. It was awesome. I was impressed. So anyway, that's about it. You got anything else?
Bryan Nale.
My buddy Bryan Nale over at Primis Mortgage. Huge supporter of all things Spread the Positive. Thank you, Trent.
Yes.
For
to say something earlier.
helping me do that. I get on a roll when I get with people I like, and I just forget sometimes. So let's hear from Bryan.
Hey, my name is Bryan Nale. I'm a mortgage loan officer with Primis Mortgage. I want to tell you that I absolutely love being a member of the Spread the Positive Network. It's such a great mission and helps bring so much positivity to our community. It's truly be a pleasure to be a part of what they do. There are a lot of ways to navigate financing a home, and in markets like this, having the advice of a trusted local professional is key to making sure you get the right advice for your specific circumstances. Whether you're interested in the purchase of a new home, second home, or have a need for a refinance, I'd love to earn your trust. If I can help you nail your mortgage, call me at 615-243-3976 or visit nailyourmortgage.com.
Primis Mortgage is a subsidiary of Primis Bank, a member FDIC, equal housing opportunity. As always, all loans are subject to approval. Primis Mortgage, NMLS number 1894879.
Be partnered up with you. Guess that's about it.
That's it. Just call us if you need anything. We'd be glad to take care of all your needs, especially here in Rutherford County, where our county's growing. We used to go into every county touching Rutherford, and we've scaled that area back.
Yeah.
Just because of travel time.
Sure.
So we're focusing more here in the county. Some of the jobs we had out in the outer lying areas were 15, 17 miles away from the shop, but it took us 55 to 65 minutes to get there. And
Murfreesboro is 45 minutes from Murfreesboro.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure is. All right. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate you. Thank you, Trent. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
And we'll see you again next week.
All righty. Nice.